Well, folks, here we are again, out in the wild with another rig that's got more potential than a junkyard dog on a chain. What we've got today is the all-new 2026 Nissan Navara, a truck that's been making waves across the pond and beyond. It's the kind of rig that looks like it could haul a small country. But the real question is, will it? That's what we're about to find out. Now, Nissan's been in the truck game for a hot minute, and they've had their fair share of hits and misses. Some of their past efforts were tougher than a $2 steak, while others folded faster than a lawn chair in a hurricane. But the 2026 Navara, well, this one's been hyped up like a county fair demolition derby. Bigger, badder, and supposedly better. Nissan claims they've beefed it up with a stronger frame, new tech, and enough bells and whistles to make a luxury car blush. But talk is cheap and metal don't lie. First glance, this thing sure looks the part. It's got that aggressive front grille, squared-off fenders, and headlights that look like they're staring straight into your soul. The stance is wide, the ground clearance is solid, and it doesn't look like it'll back down from a fight. Nissan's done away with some of the rounded edges from previous models, giving this thing a more muscular look, probably to keep up with the competition. And speaking of competition, the mid-size truck market is hotter than a firecracker in July. Toyota's still holding the crown with the Tacoma, Ford's Ranger has been swinging punches, and even GM is throwing some weight around with the Colorado and Canyon. So, Nissan's gotta bring more than just good looks to the table. Pop the hood and you're met with a few different choices, depending on what part of the world you're in. The big talker is a 2.3-liter twin-turbo diesel, churning out somewhere in the ballpark of 200 horsepower and a stump-pulling 350 pound-feet of torque. That's a good chunk of grunt for a mid-size hauler. There's also a gasoline option, a 2.4-liter Turbo 4 pushing out closer to 270 horses. Not bad, but nothing that'll knock your socks off. No V6 in sight though, which might turn some folks away. Power runs through either a 6-speed manual or a 9-speed automatic. And if you ask me, a proper truck should always have 3 pedals. But hey, not everyone wants to row their own gears these days. Slide underneath. And Nissan's claiming they've beefed up the frame with more high-strength steel, making it tougher than a morning after chili cook-off. The suspension's been reworked too, with new shocks and a reinforced rear axle to handle more weight and off-road abuse. And speaking of off-road, Nissan's throwing their PRO4X trim into the mix again, which means lockers, skid plates, and enough traction control wizardry to make a mountain goat jealous. Now let's talk about the inside. Trucks these days have become rolling living rooms, and the Navara's no different. The 2026 model gets a redesigned interior, with a bigger touchscreen, a digital gauge cluster, and enough buttons to launch a space shuttle. Nissan finally ditched some of the hard plastic from the older models, swapping in softer materials and even some leather on the higher trims. The seats are comfortable, with plenty of support for long hauls, and the back seat in the crew cab actually has enough room for full-grown humans. Imagine that. Of course, no modern vehicle would be complete without a boatload of safety nannies. And this thing's got 'em all. Lane keeping this, automatic braking that, and sensors watching your every move. Great for folks who can't seem to keep between the lines. But for those of us who actually know how to drive, it can feel like a little too much. Fortunately, most of it can be turned off, at least for now. So, how's it drive? Well, first impressions. It's smooth. That diesel engine pulls hard, and the torque kicks in nice and early, making it feel stronger than the numbers suggest. The steering's light, which makes it easy to maneuver, but it's not so light that it feels disconnected. The ride is surprisingly comfortable, thanks to that updated suspension. On the road, it soaks up bumps better than expected, and off-road, it actually holds its own. The PRO4X in particular is a real hoot when you get it in the dirt. Lock the rear diff, put it in 4-low, and it'll climb over just about anything in its way. But let's talk about the real reason people buy trucks: towing and hauling. Nissan claims this thing can tow up to 7,500 pounds when properly equipped, which puts it right in the mix with the Ranger and Tacoma. The bed's got all the modern touches, tie-downs, a dampened tailgate, and even an optional 110-volt power outlet. Payload capacity is decent, though not class-leading. If you're planning to haul bricks every day, you might want to look elsewhere. But for weekend warriors pulling a boat or a couple of dirt bikes, it'll do just fine. Now here's the kicker. Price. Nissan's always position.